Welcome back to another Executive Table Talk powered by Work It Daily. My name is JT O'Donnell. I'm the founder and CEO of Work It Daily and your host today. And we are going to be talking about tips for working parents. What are the best things that you can do to survive and thrive as a parent who is also in the workforce? And by the way, that's not to say that, if you're a full-time parent, that's not work. We all know it is. Yeah. But when you are working, an outside or traditional job and coupling that with parenting, there's a lot of juggling that goes on. And so I want to bring up my amazing panel of experts. You've seen them all here before: Lisa Perry, Michael Willis, and Anna Smith. I'm so lucky to have them here today talking about this. Please, folks, if you have questions today, comments, bring them up, post them in the chat. We love to engage with you. I want to see a lot of commentary here today. But I'm going to pick on you first, Lisa. You've been a working mom like me. We've talked about this before, with daughters, no less. So thoughts on best practices. How have you survived and thrived all these years?
Yeah, thank you so much. So yes, as you said, I am a mother of two girls and a brand marketing executive, and I know the ins and outs of balancing work and family and the numerous challenges that it brings. Balance, well, that felt like an elusive concept, as I constantly was making sacrifices of work, family, and my personal well-being. I've been through the extremes of working relentlessly and traveling extensively and grappling with the guilt of not being present for my children. And on the other end, declining work commitments, just so that I could be present for my girls' school milestones and their bedtime routines, all while trying to, achieve this harmonious work-life balance, and I was just in this perpetual battle of doing so. So if you are a working parent that's tuning in today, I want to share some tips with you that can help you make that balancing act a little easier. And so the first thing I want to share with you is prioritize family. Spend quality time with them. Be present. Now, I'm not saying quit your job or, don't make your work a commitment, because there are going to be times that you're going to be at work where you're going to have to do family things, or you're going to be with your family where you're going to have to do work things. That's just the realities of life. But what I am saying is make your family time non-negotiable priority. It is going to be a game changer for you. The other thing is time management. I don't know if your family is like mine, but it is a ton of activity going on. If you've got children, they have a lot of activities. If you have both spouses working, quite honestly, it's like project managing a small business. So create a synchronized calendar so that you're balancing work, family, and personal activities for everybody going on. Creating that coordination and alignment is going to be key. It's going to be game changer for you. The other thing is you want to have open communication with your boss and your colleagues about your family responsibilities. Making sure that you've got a supportive work environment is going to make the significant difference in managing that work and family life for you. Since COVID, we've all seen organizations be much more open to a flexible work environment. So explore those options of remote work or adjusted hours, because as parents, we know that there are things that we need to do between 9 to 5 during the workday that we just can't do anytime else. And the other thing that's been a game changer for me is delegating family responsibilities. And I'm going to speak to the women out there. If you are a woman who manages the household, you do the grocery shopping, you cook, you clean, you do the laundry. I did that. I did it efficiently. I hated all of it. But strangely enough, I didn't want to give any of that up. And what you've got to keep in mind is what matters most is spending quality time with your family. So think about that. Now, it's not going to be efficient. There's going to be chaos, but you want to focus on spending quality time with your family. So look at delegating the responsibilities out. The other thing I want you to think about is set boundaries. Learn to say no to unrealistic work expectations and set clear boundaries. It's going to help you stay focused and open the door to new possibilities. And the last thing I want to leave you with is self-care. Whether you're a man or a woman, it is important for us to take care of ourselves. Take time to have lunch with a friend, grab a drink, exercise, go to the spa, whatever is important for you. You need to take care of yourself. It is crucial for our mental well-being and resilience. I'm going to say it again. It is crucial for your mental well-being and resilience. Trying to achieve this work-life balance, it is a constant journey. So I hope there are some tips here that you might be able to glam onto and start implementing for yourself.
I love this, Lisa. So many visuals there. To me, I always felt like like you said, it's not work-life balance. It reminded me of the spinning plates. You ever see where they put plates and they spin and like one starts to wobble and they run over there and spin it. And then next thing you know, you're over here and spinning it. That's what it's always felt like to me, right? So I completely get it. I love that you talked about the setting boundaries. I particularly loved you talked about making time. Like I learned this term plan neglect in business, which is our list is always so long. There's so many hours in the day. There's always going to be a list of things on the plan neglect list, which is that stuff's not going to get to, we're not going to get it to this week or this month or whatever. I remember one day going, why do I not adopt that in my life of balancing? Like there's just going to be housework that doesn't get done. There's going to be some plan neglect. There's going to be some projects that don't get done because, family time comes first. And it's funny how I love how you took a lot of like your business principles and then figured out how to apply them there, right? And because if they work in business, why shouldn't they work at home? It's just wonderful. Absolutely loved it.
It's the chaos that you've got to just accept that it's just going to happen and it's going to be okay, and you've got to live with it for the quality to focus in on what's important. Yeah,
I love that. And I want to just bring up, and I had to put my glasses on to read this one. Sarah wrote in tonight. She said, "Great to see a talk like this. I'm childless, but I'm here because I've always struggled with that burnout in school and work. My partner wants to start a family. I'm here to learn anything that I can do to stop burning out and get that out of the way again. It's intimidating how bad my burnout was without children." Sarah, I love that you're here for this. It means you're thinking about it, and you've got really great examples on this panel here to tell you can figure this out. We were all there, right? Don't you all think we were all there where we made the mistakes because we didn't know what we didn't know and we got burnt out, and that taught us to figure these things out. So the fact that you're here, Sarah, is really wonderful. I love that. Michael, I'm going to bounce down to you. What are your thoughts on managing this crazy process of kids and work?
Yes, thank you, JT. Thank you. Working at the NFL was very committed to fostering a family-first workplace culture. They invested in their workers, but I also invested in the NFL in several ways as well. I had a very good boss mentor who taught me how to work ahead. Sometimes my budgets weren't due till November. He'd say, "Mike, work on it now." And during, April or May, work on it now. That way you can pick it up later. If you just work on it, start, it wouldn't matter. And a lot of my friends would ask me, "Mike, you're at the NFL, you work there full time. What do you do the rest of the year? The season's over. What do you do?" And I said, well, the off season time when, we let the air out a little bit, we slow down a little bit, but also there's new rules, there's safety issues. And as far as me in finance, I deal with year-end stuff. Sometimes we're closing the books, so I got to make sure all the invoices are in and make sure everybody got paid. So when we have the audit, everything that pertains to this particular year is in this year. So the NFL made several investments in its employees in several different ways. First of all, flexible scheduling, childcare support. Sometimes when parents had to drop their parents off at daycare, maybe they couldn't get there at 9, so maybe they're at 10 o'clock or 10:30. The NFL, that was fine. And there's many times when I had a doctor's appointment, I'd hand my boss the day off slip and says, Mike, what's this? I say, well, I'm taking off tomorrow. The next day I have a dentist appointment. He says, Mike, it's a doctor's appointment. It's not a day off. Just go to the doctor. You have a laptop. If you got to spend 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, that's fine. Go. I don't sign day off slips for going to the doctor. And also, they were very lenient on, also very giving on parental and parent and family leave time. So when I had, my mother had some issues, some medical issues, I was able to take her to the doctors and get her treatment, and it was no problem. Also, when it comes to remote work, during the off season, I just work the middle of the week. I work Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then when the season came along, we're much busier. I added in the Monday. They said, well, you don't have to come on Mondays, but I felt I needed to be on the ground on Mondays. It's right after the game. So I felt I needed to be on the ground, available, accessible on Mondays. So during the season, I added in the Monday. And the other thing, the NFL was very good on wellness initiatives. They had a lot of seminars, and many were mandatory, on domestic violence, firearms, mental awareness, and also they gave gym memberships. And I like what Lisa said about balancing. I really, really like that concept. And a lot of the things that I'm going to say now is just kind of repeated what she said. But working parents need to protect how much access they give to others. And I'm going to use that word access quite a few times in the next couple minutes. Again, working parents need to protect how much access they give to others. First of all, working parents need to have time management, calendars, scheduling tools on their computer. That way they know where they need to be when they need to be there. And setting boundaries, access, time, access, resources, access. And when you have work problems, leave them at work. Again, access. So set boundaries and time, resources. And also when you have work problems, leave them to the side. And quality over quantity. When you have, make moments that count with your children, your family. If you're taking your wife to dinner, yes, we're going to bring our cell phone, of course. But don't just stare at the phone. Make sure you talk, have conversation. Your children at the park, make sure you play with them, have a good time, and enjoy the time. And just as Lisa mentioned too, self-care. You got to have, and I struggle with this too, regular exercise and sleep. Just like at the airlines, they say, put your mask on before you can help others. Because without self-care, all the other stuff I mentioned, you can't take care of others unless you take care of yourself. And lastly, learn to say no. People who infringe on your time, and you gotta let people know, no, this doesn't work for me. And the last thing I'm going to say is that don't feel bad about it. If you got to tell people no, don't feel bad. You don't have to feel bad because you told someone no. Thank you.
I love that. Oh my gosh. So first of all, a couple of things I really took away from this from you, Michael. The NFL is amazing at trying to be in the forefront of benefits and support and understanding. And I hope everyone listening today, if you are a parent or thinking of becoming a parent, Sarah, who's listening, make sure you're with a company that gets that. It is really important that you find out what their policies are. Look at how they treat other working parents in the company. If you don't see that they have that mindset, start looking for the new job now.
Yeah,
make the change.
True. That's a good point.
Right?
That's a
Make
good
the
point.
change.
Yes, that is true.
Another thing you brought up, and you mentioned your mom, we're talking today about working parents, but a lot of us have become the parents to elder parents. 3 times now I've been through it in the last 7 years,
Yes.
while, full-time job, while raising kids. And that is something that we have to think about. It's just almost like the caregiver job that you have to balance against your job, your work. So I love that you mentioned that. But by far my favorite was you driving home the point about access. If anyone takes anything away from today, Michael saying that to us over and over again, get that in your head. You can limit your access.
Right.
And that's so helpful, like you said, because it is hard when people feel bad about saying no. So if you can limit that access, you can also end up reducing the amount of times you're having to verbally say no to someone because the boundaries were set, right? Like you said,
right. Sure.
Which I loved. I think that was just incredible knowledge bombs, Michael. It was great.
Thank you.
Okay, hopping over to you, Anna. Anna, you work with executives, big global, Fortune 500 type companies. They've got to be dealing with this. I can't imagine they're not coming to you with discussions around this. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. And I was taking copious notes from my friends here. Lots of great stuff. Lisa and Michael, thank you for that. The take I would say that I would like to share with everybody today is working parents in the digital age, because they are facing very unique challenges. At the same time, there's a potential plethora or a full room, if you may, of opportunities and tools to be leveraged and used. So there's a couple of things before I get into some of the ideas and recommendations for you guys, which I would like to bring from, being a parent of 4 children, now, of course, grown up. But first, guilt when you work and feeling that guilt is always going to be present, or most of the times. It's something that you have to think about and just understand the value that you're bringing to your children and to your family for the work that you're doing, in addition to gaining confidence and other great pieces of value for yourself. So if you're not okay, just like Michael was describing with the, on a plane where, the masks come down, you have to be well first, and then you are going to be able to help everybody. So guilt, put it on a corner over there. It doesn't really help you at all, but it's present. I was guilty of feeling guilt all the time. The second bit is, if you can postpone giving your children a smartphone until they are 10, 11, 12, please do that. There's a lot of research around this particular piece, and I want to invite you to research and just get access to this information. There's a lot of parents that, because it's easy to provide children, even as young as 2 years old, a device so that they can play and they can get entertained, we don't know the implications of that unless we go into research mode. And believe me, it's not a beautiful thing. It has to do with looking after their mental health. So I cannot stress this enough. Please don't give smartphones to children that are under 10. That's my pledge to all of you, my request to all of you. I know it's very difficult because a lot of parents out there, we feel the pressure and we obviously do it, but very, very important point. So let me get started then. Embracing technology. So you have to understand what tools might be available that might make you more productive, like a digital calendar, like Lisa was mentioning, where all of the different activities from the whole family are brought forward, are brought together. That's very important. To-do lists, etc. Things that that are going to be important. It's not having tools or having apps for having them, but actually using the right technology for your needs. Like, for example, one thing that I find particularly useful is telehealth appointments versus taking your child to the to the doctor unless you really have to. Parent-teacher conferences, that's another opportunity where you can do it virtually unless you actually have to go there. So trying to be very efficient and productive with your time is going to save you a lot of time. So embracing technology from that angle. Another bit that both Lisa and Michael have mentioned, and I'm a great proponent of this in the digital space, is setting boundaries. It's very, very important for you and for your children to provide those digital free times, those areas or specific workspaces or family places, etc., where there's no devices, not even for you at the table, if that is what you want to do and you follow those rules. I will talk a little bit more about how you can set examples in a moment. Educate yourself and your kids about digital safety. I cannot stress enough how critical this is. Discuss online privacy, cyberbullying, and the importance of very, very strong and unique passwords. You have to understand what your kids are watching and are doing on their phones. And just because they say, no, this is private, well, I'm sorry, but you're my child, and this is part of the rules of the game in this household. This is, as I see it, a black or white situation. I am very, very strict or very clear on this particular. Use parental controls where necessary. Don't be afraid to do that, but of course you also have to research it. Prioritize the quality time that both of my colleagues have shared and have talked about. That's extremely important. Promote a healthy tech life. harmony, right? We all look for that balance, and I particularly look for harmony, especially for children. And what I mean by this is limit the screen time that they have. The fact that everybody else in their school or in their class, their parents allow them to do and, play and watch and whatever, that doesn't mean anything in your household, your rules. It's very, very important. The time allotted for screen time is one. The time allotted for reading a book is one. The time for doing homework is one. So it's very, very key. An opportunity, of course, that technology brings us is an opportunity to stay connected. Make sure that you also leverage that to stay connected with what's going on with your child's life, school, the grades that they're having, that they're getting. Make sure that they're connected with their parents. Once you understand what tools are being used and what's the better way, and if you don't know, well, then you should bring this to the attention of the school. And maybe that's an opportunity for other parents to learn about what may be in use from a technology perspective. The fact that technology is available doesn't mean that people know how to use it. So very, very important. And I would probably say, the last bit, and you probably can hear it in my voice, I'm a little bit passionate about this topic. Be a role model for your children. If you are going to tell them no devices at the dinner table, or no devices while we're doing while we go to the park, etc., then stick to that. The fact that you're there, the fact that you're with them, the rules also apply for you. So think about that, and think about what might be practical for you, setting those boundaries and becoming a role model. So thank you, JT.
I love it. And I love that you chose to focus on the digital aspect, right? Because that's something relatively new. It's a new wrinkle in raising kids. We constantly joke as a Gen Xer, right? Like there's I see on social media jokes about, we would let kids go and there'd be a bell on the block to ring for them to come home. There were no phones. There were no ways to check in with kids and see how they're doing. There was no need to try to protect them from cyber bullying and, all these other things. So there's this whole new added parental element that you have to navigate while working, right? Mm-hmm. And then, so I can see it. And yeah, technology's made our lives easier in a lot of ways. Like, as you were talking through your stories, I remember, I left corporate America and started my own company when my kids were small. And I remember in the daytime going to the park and the anxiety and distraction I felt because I was fearful, like I was waiting for a client email, right? So the day that I got a phone that allowed me to check the email while I was out and about, right, was a game changer for a hot minute. Until then you realize you can't be on it all the time, right? You still need to be present. So the things that you were talking about, it's so much for us all as parents. And I just love that all of you today offered some insights, and people have to try for themselves. You have to figure out what works for yourselves and then try to make it happen. Mm-hmm. One thing I just thought I would, I normally don't weigh in on my 2 cents. I will today because this is near and dear to my heart as well. For me, I took a really non-traditional route. When I left and started my own company and I got employees, I also built a homework room at my company. And so my lunch hour was going to drive and pick up my kids from school, get them their snacks and bring them back. And then they had a homework playroom in my office. And, that just wasn't done. Nowadays, there's daycares at companies, and there's all of this. But my kids always knew and always saw, mom working and figuring out a way that they could get their attention and they could work. And I say that because I was counseling a woman recently who has 2 young children, and she was talking about the guilt and saying, I feel bad and when I can't be there. And I said, well, didn't you have a working mom? She said, oh, yes, my mom was really successful. She did a lot of stuff. And I said, wow, well, what did her being a working mom teach you? And she went on for 5 minutes. She told me all these great things about her mom being a working mom and how it made her who she is today. And she kept going. And my smile got bigger and bigger and bigger. And she stopped. She's like, oh, my gosh, I get it. I'm like, exactly. And that's the one thing that I want to share with today. Being a working parent is a role model to your kids. Don't underestimate the things that they're learning to do, how to be independent, how to think and do for themselves. I just saw a study that said the children of working parents are more successful. and in all the good ways. And it's because of that. So don't be so hard on yourselves, because there's lots that they're learning by seeing you working, especially when they see you working and trying to figure out how to make the parenting and the work. So
yeah. And JT, when you say that, I mean, I think that's so important, right? Because and Anna hit on this, right? We beat ourselves up, the guilt, right? And we have to realize that there are really good aspects of what we're doing, and then it goes back to the quality time. Cherish those times that we're there. Be present. Be focused. Do what we can, because life is precious, right? So it's don't beat yourself up. Don't traumatize yourself. But then when you're there, enjoy it. Be present. Hear about their days. Enjoy what they're doing. And it goes so much further. Turn the work off. I think, Michael, you said that as well. It's leave it behind, leave the work behind, and then just be there. It's so important what you all have said. So
I love it. And I'll turn it back to each one of you and say this, that I will, like, what you're saying is so spot on, right? Like, let's say you had a really bad day at work. There's no switch inside us. I really wish there was. I so wish there was like I walked out the door and it's like, it's out of my head until tomorrow, but it isn't. Right? We carry it with us. And so we talk about that idea of being present, but I also would be curious to say, do any of you have any tips and tricks for getting yourself to say, okay, it's going to be there tomorrow, right? I cannot bring this with me to my family. I need to be able to check that at the door. Any tips, any thoughts, Anna?
JT, yes, and this is definitely very true. I typically use the 5-minute rule. So I get home, I am absolutely unhappy and frustrated, if you may. And what I do is I tell, and of course, my children when they were home, but my husband, whomever is there, I need my 5 minutes. And what that means is for 5 minutes, I'm going to go into my office and I'm going to process this in a way that allows me to, I do a little meditation, a little breathing, 4-7-8. So you in 4, hold for 7, then 8, 5 repetitions of that. So several things that through life, you gather. But after those 5 minutes, ta-da, I'm here and I'm present, because that also connects to something that I said, and I believe, I don't know who Lisa or Michael said it. We have to be role models for our children as well. How we handle the bad situations and how we handle our frustration is also a way for us to showcase we cannot expect our children to behave differently if we don't behave differently. That's a double whammy there, right?
That's a really great point. And I just want to say that Stefano said in this great point on maintaining equal standards using technology between parents and children, as well as being the role model. So true. Yeah, really reinforcing that. We've got to, whatever we're telling them to do, we have to do too. It absolutely makes sense. I just want to say Bronwyn is saying, kudos to you that you only need 5. She needs 10 minutes. That's so great, right? That's amazing. Well, executives, this was awesome. Incredible tips. I think everyone is hopefully taking away that, creating that balance is a constant work in progress. Remember some of the key tips around technology, around access. That word was so key. Around self-care. Lisa, you talked so much about that as well. And just being good to ourselves. This isn't perfect. It isn't a competition, right? It's life. So that term be present, we say that a lot, but hopefully we provided context around that today, because that's the most important thing you can do when it comes to this. All right, executives, thank you. Another excellent executive table talk. Folks, you know where to find them. Jot their names down. Go find them on LinkedIn. Ask them to connect with you. I know they're really great about that. These folks are dropping knowledge bombs here on the platform all the time, really wealth of knowledge. So be sure to follow them. And until next time, remember what we always tell you. If you want to win, you got to work it daily, my friends, okay? Good luck. Go get them.
Here.